Okay, I see what I did wrong last time. I was trying to do a test. This is an audio test of StreamYard, and the last time I tried to do this, I forgot to add my own audio and video, and we just came up with a black screen. So, Jay and I, we did our last few shows after Google Hangouts finally ended. We turned to some different things, and we wound up using this platform, StreamYard, for our last few episodes of our show, the Movie Discussion Pocket Dimension. But they've been plagued with audio issues, kind of like a sound coming up on the track, and they're super annoying and distracting, and I'm sure it's the same thing to the audience. So we were trying to look at other alternatives. Last night, as a test, we tried to do a live commentary of a movie using another platform, Lightstream, I think, and we thought that was going okay. And instead, what happened was it only actually wound up broadcasting for 17 minutes, and we didn't know. We went going for about 2 hours, and it wasn't until everything was over that we saw that only about 17 minutes had actually been broadcast. So we can't rely on something that's going to do that. So I'm looking at StreamYard again because I want to see if we can figure out what the problem is. I don't hear anything now. So I'm wondering, we suspected all along that it had something to do with it not interacting properly with Jay's mic. Jay even switched mics at one point, and it didn't seem to make any difference, so I don't know. So I just thought maybe to help clear doubt, I'd just stream here and see if anything happens with my own mic. I can't hear it now, but again, I'll watch this when this is over. So I have to make this last a little while, so what are we going to talk about? Well, how about my reading lately? Spent the summer, pretty much the summer, reading a long-standing, high fantasy trilogy by author Tad Williams called Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn. It's been around a long time. I think the first book was 88, and the last book's like 91, something like that. And I'd heard of it most of my life, but I never read it. But I think coming out of all the Game of Thrones stuff, I remembered that that was the trilogy that was sort of the main inspiration for George R.R. Martin to try his hand at doing a fantasy series. Was that he really thought Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn was good. And they're really long books, to the point that the third book is almost like 2 books. If you get it in paperback, you have to get it in 2 books because it's simply too big to be a paperback, because they're both like 800, 900 pages long or something like that. So super long trilogy, but very satisfying, a fun sort of fantasy world. But at first doesn't seem that different from a lot of those things. It has things kind of like elves, but they're never called elves, and a few other things. There's no orcs, though, although there's other types of things. But again, it's a lot of world building because it's so long, but it's very satisfying. It's happy with it, and it just turned out to be perfect timing for me because even though Tad Williams is a very prolific writer and had kept writing and has done many things in the interim, the world is called Austin Ard. He had no plans to return to it until only a couple of years ago, and he started a new sequel trilogy in 2017 called The Last King of Austin Ard. And the first book, The Witchwood Crown, I just finished reading a few days ago. Again, quite long. This book clocks in over 1,000 pages, although technically it's 900 something before then there's just an index, or the appendix, which has all this information about languages and characters and areas and stuff like that. Again, it's a very big, comprehensive world. So it turns out to be perfect timing for me just to be able to jump on. And the next book, which just came out a little while ago, is called, which doesn't even have a paperback release yet. And it's rare because not only do I wait for paperbacks because they're cheaper, but also, even though when it comes to graphic novels, I'm the opposite. I like having a hardcover graphic novel. I prefer having just sort of an ordinary paperback book. I find big hardcover books kind of awkward, really. But I'm just in love with the next one, which is called Empire of Grass. It's so beautiful that I probably will drop about $40 on it. Although I'll have to wait a while for that because I don't have the money right now. And then the third book's called The Navigator's Children. They're all going to be huge. Anyway, I'm enjoying that a lot. But anyway, so I had after finishing that, pick right up, I wanted to go on to another trilogy that I was on to the second book of, a very different trilogy, sci-fi, from Chinese science fiction author Cixin Liu. The first book is called The Three Body Problem. I read it sometime a little over a year ago, and I was just blown away by it. Just amazing, amazing book. You call it sort of hard sci-fi because there's a lot of real science going to it, and particularly physics. In fact, the 3-body problem is a real life problem in physics, and it's a big obviously factor in this book. And on the surface, it doesn't seem too original. It's like, because it's basically detailing sort of like the first encounter between humans and aliens, but it's it's very different. It's got like an Arthur C. Clarke style story set up in a way, but it's so brilliantly done and original. Plus, it has the backdrop of the what's it called, the Cultural Revolution that took place in China in the late 60s, early 70s. You know, a time of turmoil that really factors into what happens in this book. And anyway, point was, I read this about over a year ago, and only a few months ago I bought the second book, which is called The Dark Forest. And then just a few days ago, just because I don't know, I had the time and money, I bought the third book, Death's End. So anyway, finally, after finishing the Austin Art stuff and having some time to clear my head, I thought, okay, it's time to read The Dark Forest now. And this almost never happens to me. But it was about 2 chapters into The Dark Forest, and I realized I forget too much. I can't remember what's going on. I have to go back and reread The Three Body Problem. So that's what I'm doing. I'm about 3/4 of the way through, and it's all coming back to me. It's a great book. I'm really enjoying it. But this time, I will jump directly onto Dark Forest when this is over. Besides that, spent the summer a couple times. I ordered online, which is kind of a new experience for me, from Chapters Indigo, just because, you know, they don't always carry everything in the stores. And also because one thing is, like, I try to think of myself as a smart shopper when it comes to things like buying food, because I'm always complaining, and people, you know, the cost of living is going up. You go to the grocery store, food's going up, and there's certain foods that I just don't buy regular price ever. If it's not the sale price, I just go without. But I've realized that I can never really do that with books and comics. I'm always paying through whatever the actual price is. I'm never benefiting from any sort of sales. Every time I go to the bookstore when they have sales, you know, all the stuff up front with the stickers on it, it's never anything I want to buy or anything I'm interested in reading. So finally, like, I realized through buying some of the stuff online that sometimes they'd have special online sales. So I got a couple things that way. And the latest one was this box set of Batman by Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, sorry. I added more syllables there. Yeah, the artist. So this is about from their Batman run around 2013 or 2014. And I've said this before, way back in 2011, when the New 52 had started. This is still during the New 52 era before they did the DC Rebirth stuff. It was my chance to finally collect an ongoing Batman comic, because I'd never done that before. And of course, there's the 2 flagship titles, Batman and Detective Comics. And I didn't really know. I sort of did like a coin flip to see which one I'd wind up with. And I wound up with Detective Comics, and I wound up regretting that, I think, because Detective Comics was never bad, but it was clear that the better stuff was always going on in Batman. And the main reason was because of these guys, Scott and Greg, because they were just on fire. The big event they did in 2013 was something called 0 Year. As you see, there's three smaller volumes in here. 0 Year Secret City, 0 Year Dark City, and then something called Graveyard Shift. And anyway, a 0 Year it's sort of like another attempt at telling Batman's origin, but it's so different from Year One. It's on a much bigger scale. It's it involves the Red Hood gang, and then eventually the Riddler takes over as the main bad guy when he cripples the city and starts what is known as like a 0 Year, where Gotham's cut off in the world. There's no power or anything, and Riddler sort of rules from a hidden place, terrorizing everybody with drones and stuff. And anyway, it's really great. But the other thing that stands out about, I mean, beautiful art, is really, and I don't know how much the artist or the writer made this decision, or if it was something the colorist, is the color. The color of this book is just amazing, and mostly because it's so different from the typical Batman color scheme. And here's a good example right here on this great splash page. As you see that it's full of pastel colors. You've got reds and orange and pink and purple and sort of like turquoise blue. Again, it's like a pastel color scheme, except you still have the harsh blacks of the Batman, and plus the backdrop. Again, Riddler has plunged the city into darkness, so none of the towering buildings are lit or anything. So there's lots of black thrown in there, but it's gorgeous, and it's used throughout this whole thing. And I loved it at the time. And here's a little confession: the fact you might think I'm a sucker for buying stuff twice, because technically I was such a fan of 0 Year that even though I wasn't collecting Batman, I went out of my way and bought those comics anyway and added to my account. So I own this stuff in comic form, but still I think it's worth having in a tidy graphic novel without any ads or anything. I was really happy to have it. So yeah, I was able to get this with a pretty good sale, something like 30 or 40% off. So finally, I managed to benefit from a sale. But but great work. Greg Snyder is probably considered maybe the definitive writer of Batman, of maybe the last decade or so. I'm not exactly sure when he started, but to this day, I still collect Detective Comics instead of Batman, and I'm just because I'm stubborn and I won't switch over. But anyway, I'm happy to have this. It's cool to have it in a box set form, and as I said, the price was really good. Although buying online is fun, and it's good to take advantage of that. There's still a few things like you have to pay over 25. You have to get something that's more than $25 if you want shipping to be free. So it's not really worth your while to get something under 25 because then they'll nail you on the shipping, which sucks. And the other thing is I'm an iRewards member. This chapter's in Canada, which just means every year it used to be $25, now it's up to 35, which barely makes it worth it. I have to really buy books at a high pace to justify it, but it means I always get 10% off. But online, it's only 5%, so that sucks. So that's really annoying. But anyway, it's been a good experience mostly buying this stuff online because it's come in really fast too, which is satisfying. But anyway, I'm gonna have to put buying new books on hold for a little while as I just try to scramble some money together. I recently had to buy a new power cord for my stupid laptop, and that really set me back. But anyway, et cetera, et cetera. So, bunch of useless detail, and I don't know what I'm talking about. The whole point is I just wanted to make a video so I could really watch it. It doesn't really matter if anyone's watching it or not, and see how it looks and sounds, and see if we can pinpoint what the problem is, because Jay and I really want to continue our show, and we want to do one this week, and then get into October. We've got a series planned, and we just need to figure out the best way to navigate this and take care of these technical issues so we can go forward smoothly. We complained a lot about Google Hangouts on the Sausage Factory and everything else, but the truth was it was a really great thing, and it worked mostly. It had its problems, but it mostly worked very well. And now we're living in a world without it, and it's difficult. It's especially when you are going for stuff that's free. I mean, maybe there's some stuff out there that you have to pay for, but I don't think Jay and I are really in a position to pay for anything. And neither of us would want to force the other to have to do it. And that was the other thing, is that Jay has been the proactive one in checking this stuff out, and he's not really a particularly technical person either, not say like our friend Raiho. So I feel bad that I've kind of left that up to him. So I thought the least I could do is do a little experiment here and see how this broadcasts just on my end, if there'll be any audio issues or not. Everything seems fine from what I can see, but I'm going to end this. I'm going to play it back and take a look, and I don't know. We're going to work on it one way or another. The movie discussion. Wow, I can't even remember what it is. Movie discussion pocket dimension. There it is. Will continue one way or another, and so we're working on it. Just like So anyway, this is finally a successful test. The last one I did, I forgot to actually add myself into it. More or less, all you got was a black screen. So I'm gonna check this out. So all right, see you soon. Peace. Click. I always say that.